So picture that classic pop culture image of space travel. You know the videos I'm talking about, right?
Oh, absolutely. The ones where they're just floating around.
Yeah, exactly. Astronauts floating serenely through the cabin of a spacecraft, doing these like slow motion somersaults.
Laughing as they sip those little spherical blobs of water right out of the air.
Right. I mean, it looks like the ultimate playground up there. It just looks like this pure, unadulterated freedom from the heavy, kind of plodding reality we all live in down here.
It really does look fun.
But contrast that image of serene freedom with the rather jarring reality we found in our source material today for this deep dive.
Yeah, the hidden truth about that weightless playground is a lot darker.
It is. Because your body, my body, the listener's body, we did not evolve to float. Every single one of your ancestors, stretching back billions of years, lived their entire existence under the constant, steady downward pull of Earth's gravity.
Right, and when you take that invisible pull away, the human body doesn't just, enjoy the ride. It quietly, systematically starts to come undone.
It's kind of terrifying.
It actively unravels. I mean, the bones, the muscles, the cardiovascular system, they aren't passive structures just hanging out inside you.
Right, they're doing a job.
Exactly. They are dynamic systems that are actively tuned to fight a 24/7 battle against a force that is suddenly entirely missing.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can truly understand how the body falls apart up there,
Yeah.
we really have to grasp the physical reality of what the body's actually experiencing in space.
Which is very counterintuitive.
It really is, and that starts with busting a major myth about gravity itself, specifically this idea of zero gravity that we hear constantly in movies and the news.
Yeah, scientifically speaking, that phrase is highly misleading, especially when we're talking about the International Space Station.
Because gravity hasn't just vanished up there.
No, it hasn't vanished at all. At the altitude of the space station, which is roughly 250 miles above the surface, Earth's gravity is still very much present.
Wow.
In fact, it's about 90% as strong as it is right where you are sitting right now. The technical term for what astronauts experience isn't zero gravity, it's actually microgravity.
But wait, if the gravitational pull is still 90% as strong up there, why aren't they just pinned to the floor of the station? Like, why are they floating?
It's a great question. It is entirely about their sideways motion.
Okay.
The space station and every astronaut inside of it is in a state of permanent free fall.
Free fall.
Yeah. They are orbiting, which means they are moving horizontally so incredibly fast. We're talking roughly 17,500 miles per hour.
That is insane.
Right. So as gravity pulls them down toward the ground, the curve of the Earth essentially falls away beneath them at the exact same rate.
Oh, I see. So they are endlessly falling around the planet.
Exactly. And because the station and the people inside are falling at the exact same speed, there is no sensation of weight.
That's wild. Okay, so imagine you're in an elevator at the very top of a tall skyscraper. If the cable snaps and the elevator plummets for those few seconds before you hit the bottom,
You would float inside the cabin.
right, you and the elevator are falling together. Gravity's still pulling you down, but because the floor of the elevator isn't pushing back up against your feet, you feel entirely weightless.
That's a perfect way to picture it.
Yeah.
This station is really just an elevator that never hits the ground.
Huh.
So the astronauts are not beyond gravity's reach. They just aren't feeling its mechanical resistance anymore.
And that absence of resistance, like the sheer lack of having to bear any actual weight, is what triggers this massive cascade of biological alarms, right?
Right.
Starting deep within the skeletal system.
It does. I mean, we tend to view our skeleton as the static scaffolding of a building. Like, it's just hard, dead stuff holding us up.
Yeah, it just rocks inside our bodies.
Right. But our bones are highly active living tissue, and they operate on a very strict use it or lose it system.
Okay, so down here on Earth, every time you stand up or walk,
Yeah.
your bones bear your weight.
And your body senses that mechanical stress at a cellular level, and it continuously rebuilds the bone to ensure it's dense enough to handle the load.
But in space, in that endless elevator drop we just talked about, the body realizes it just doesn't need to fight gravity anymore.
Exactly. From an evolutionary standpoint, the human body is incredibly efficient, almost to a fault, really.
What do you mean?
Well, why expend valuable energy and metabolic resources maintaining thick, heavy bones if you don't actually need them to hold you up?
Oh, wow. So it just gives up on them.
Pretty much. The moment that mechanical stress disappears, the cells responsible for building new bone just slow down, while the cells responsible for breaking down old bone kick into overdrive.
That's crazy.
The body actively dismantles its own scaffolding, The bones literally dissolve, shedding vast amounts of calcium directly into the bloodstream.
And the rate at which this happens is just staggering. Our sources note that astronauts can lose 1 to 2% of their bone mass every single month they are in orbit,
It's massive. That is a highly accelerated form of osteoporosis.
which we usually associate with aging, right, where bones become brittle and fragile over a span of decades.
Exactly. But in microgravity, this severe bone thinning is happening to peak condition, extremely fit adults in a matter of mere months.
And the muscles follow that exact same use it or lose it trajectory, especially the postural muscles.
Oh yeah, the muscles in your calves, your thighs, your core, your lower back, they are basically unemployed up there.
What's fascinating here is how the space agencies are actually forced to combat this rapid decay. Because exercise on the space station, it isn't a recreational activity to just pass the time.
No, it is essential, strictly prescribed medicine.
Right. Astronauts strap themselves into specialized treadmills and resistance machines using these heavy bungee cords to simulate the downward pull of gravity.
And they have to engage in this intense, sweat-inducing workout for roughly 2 hours every single day.
2 hours?
Every single day, just to trick the body into maintaining its structural integrity. They are artificially forcing the bones and muscles to work against resistance.
Basically desperately sending a biological signal that says, hey, don't dissolve yet, we still need you.
Exactly.
But wait, I have a question about this. If they are working out for 2 hours a day with heavy resistance, shouldn't that completely solve the problem? I mean, 2 hours of heavy lifting and running is significantly more exercise than most people do on Earth in a given week.
You would definitely think so, but no, it doesn't completely halt the decay.
Really?
Yeah, it mitigates the worst of it, sure, but astronauts still lose mass. What that stubborn, unavoidable loss tells us is that we fundamentally underestimate the 24/7 workout that gravity provides for free.
That makes sense.
From the moment you roll out of bed to the moment you lie back down, gravity is constantly demanding that your cardiovascular system, your muscles, and your bones maintain themselves.
So you don't even have to go to a gym to benefit from it. Just standing in your kitchen, making coffee, is a constant physical engagement with a planetary force.
Exactly. Take that persistent load away, and 2 hours on a space treadmill is barely a Band-Aid.
Okay, so the skeleton is falling apart because it lacks resistance. But the human body isn't just a solid frame. We are essentially a complex plumbing system.
A very complex one, yeah.
We're full of fluids, blood, water, plasma. And normally down here, gravity anchors those fluids, pulling them downward into our legs and our lower body.
Which means your cardiovascular system has to work incredibly hard, constantly pumping against that downward pull to force blood back up to keep your brain oxygenated.
Right.
Your heart is a muscle perfectly calibrated for the gravity of Earth.
So what happens when that fluid is suddenly let off the leash in microgravity? The heart doesn't immediately get the memo, does it?
Nope. It keeps pumping with the exact same upward force, expecting to fight gravity. But with no gravity pulling the blood down, a massive volume of fluid rapidly drifts upward, pooling in the chest and the head.
It's like imagine a water balloon that's only half full. If you squeeze the bottom half of that balloon, all the water is forced upward, making the top half bulge out super tight.
Yes, that's essentially exactly what is happening to the body's fluids.
And the physical changes from this fluid shift are immediate and totally visible. Astronauts develop these puffy, rounded faces. The veins in their necks bulge out.
It looks very uncomfortable. And simultaneously, their legs thin out dramatically because a huge percentage of their fluid volume has just evacuated the lower body.
I read that it's affectionately known among astronauts as the chicken leg effect.
Yeah, exactly, chicken legs.
So they get plucky faces and skinny legs, and the sources say they also constantly feel like they have a severe head cold because all that fluid congestion stuffs up their sinuses.
Constantly congested.
But I mean, it sounds highly uncomfortable, sure, but a stuffy nose and puffy cheeks don't exactly sound like mission-ending catastrophes that would stop us from going to Mars, right?
Well, a stuffy nose isn't mission-ending, no. But the pressure behind that stuffiness, that absolutely could be.
Wait, really?
Yeah, because the fluid isn't just settling in their sinuses, it is increasing the overall intracranial pressure, so the pressure inside the skull.
Oh.
And the brain is encased in solid bone, so when extra fluid rushes in, it has literally nowhere to expand. So that rising pressure begins to press forward against the back of the eyeballs.
Wait, so it physically alters the shape of the eye?
It physically flattens the globe of the eye from the inside out,
Oh, wow.
while simultaneously squeezing the optic nerve. It is a condition currently being heavily researched, often called spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome.
That sounds intense.
It is. Many astronauts find that their vision noticeably degrades during long missions. They become farsighted, they struggle to read instruments.
And do their eyes go back to normal when they get home?
Not always. For some astronauts, these structural changes to the eye are permanent. Their vision never fully returns to its pre-flight baseline, even years after returning to Earth. This raises an important question for space agencies because how can we send people on a 3-year Mars mission if they might go blind on the way?
That is terrifying. But okay, so we can measure the bones shrinking on a scan, and we can clearly observe the fluid shifting and pressing against the eyes.
Right.
But the absolute most dangerous roadblocks to deep space travel are actually completely invisible to the naked eye.
Ah, yes, the radiation.
Exactly. Because once a crew leaves Earth's immediate orbit, they hit a wall of invisible threats, primarily high-energy cosmic radiation.
It's true. Down here on the surface, we are blissfully unaware of just how hostile the universe really is because we are wrapped tightly in 2 protective blankets.
The atmosphere being one of them?
Right. The atmosphere physically absorbs a lot of radiation, but the heavy lifting is actually done by Earth's massive magnetic field.
Okay, so how does that work?
It acts as an enormous deflector shield that stretches far out into space, and it routes highly charged solar particles and cosmic rays safely around the planet.
Even the International Space Station, right?
Right.
Orbiting a few hundred miles up, it's still tucked safely inside that magnetic shield.
Exactly. They get a higher dose than we do on the ground, but they are still protected.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. If you picture the Earth's magnetic field as a giant invisible umbrella, as long as you're standing under it, you stay dry.
It's a good analogy.
But the moment a crew sets course for the moon or embarks on a multi-month journey to Mars, they step completely out from under that umbrella.
And they are instantly caught in a torrential, unending downpour of deep space radiation.
And unlike muscle loss, you cannot exercise away radiation damage.
No, you absolutely cannot. We are talking about galactic cosmic rays here, incredibly fast, heavy particles that tear right through human tissue.
Like tiny bullets.
Literally. On a cellular level, they smash through DNA strands, causing complex double-strand breaks that the body's repair mechanisms just struggle to fix.
Which means a huge cancer risk.
Exactly. This drastically raises the lifetime risk of developing cancer, it damages the central nervous system, and it can even accelerate cognitive decline.
But the logical solution to protect the crew would just be to build a thicker spacecraft, right?
Yeah.
Like, just line the walls with thick lead or water to block the radiation.
You would think so, but that runs into the absolute most unforgiving rule of rocket science.
Which is?
Mass. Every single ounce you launch into space requires a massive amount of fuel.
Right, of course.
So building a spacecraft with walls thick enough to act as a proper radiation shield would make the ship so incredibly heavy that no existing rocket could ever lift it off the Earth.
Wow. So the physics of propulsion and the biology of radiation damage are currently just in a standoff.
Pretty much, we haven't solved it yet.
But the sources also highlight invisible threats that aren't physical or cellular at all. There are subtler, deeply human challenges to leaving the planet, starting with something as simple as figuring out which way is up.
Yeah, the human balance system is entirely dependent on gravity.
Right, the inner ear.
Exactly. Deep inside your inner ear is the vestibular system, which uses small fluid-filled canals to tell your brain your orientation.
So when you tilt your head on Earth, gravity pulls on that fluid, sending a signal.
Right. But in microgravity, that fluid just floats. So your eyes might tell your brain you are floating upside down in the cabin, but your inner ear is sending completely chaotic, nonsensical signals because it has no gravity to anchor it.
That sounds nauseating.
Oh, it is. This conflict causes space adaptation syndrome. For the first few days in orbit, many astronauts experience profound, debilitating nausea and sickness until the brain eventually learns to just, ignore the inner ear entirely.
Which is wild that the brain can just choose to ignore an entire sensory organ.
It's very adaptable.
But once that physical sickness fades, the psychological reality sets in. I mean, we are deeply social, earthbound creatures.
Sure.
So being sealed inside a small metal container, essentially the volume of a large house, or like a few school buses, with the exact same 3 or 4 people, for years takes an immense toll.
There is no fresh air, no wind, no varying landscapes.
And on the space station, at least astronauts can look out the window. Right? They can look out the cupola window and see the Earth filling their entire field of view.
Yeah, it's vibrant, it's huge, and it's incredibly psychologically comforting.
But On a mission to Mars, the sources paint a terrifyingly isolated picture. As the spacecraft travels, the Earth just shrinks.
It does. Eventually, our entire planet, everyone you know, the entire history of our species, is reduced to a single distant point of light in an endlessly black sky.
You are utterly alone.
And you cannot return home in an emergency. You are locked into orbital mechanics. Keeping a crew mentally well, cooperative, and sharp under that level of profound, inescapable isolation is an entirely different puzzle from keeping their bones strong.
It is a psychological pressure cooker.
Complete.
So, given the DNA damage from radiation, the dissolving skeleton, the flattening eyeballs, and the immense psychological strain, it really begs the question, are we fundamentally doomed to stay here? Like, is human spaceflight an evolutionary dead end because we are just too biologically fragile for the environment?
Well, if you only look at the decay, it definitely seems that way. But the silver lining in all this data lies in the profound resilience of human biology.
Okay, that's good news.
Yeah, the human machine is phenomenally adaptable. When astronauts return to Earth's gravity, they are undeniably weak. I mean, they often have to be physically carried out of the landing capsule because their cardiovascular systems can't even pump blood to their brains quickly enough when they stand up.
Right, because their heart is used to microgravity.
Exactly. But the damage is not a permanent state.
So once that heavy downward gravitational load applies itself again, the biological alarm bells immediately start ringing in reverse.
Exactly. The body realizes the mechanical stress is returned and says, hey, we need these systems online immediately.
So the fluids redistribute downward, taking the dangerous pressure off the optic nerve.
The inner ear recalibrates to the downward pull, and a normal sense of balance slowly returns.
Yeah, and the bones.
The cells responsible for building bone wake back up, and the skeleton gradually rebuilds its density. Muscles regrow and regain their earthly strength.
The sources do mention that this recovery process can take months, and there is a possibility that a tiny percentage of the lost bone density never fully returns. But by and large, the body manages to knit itself back together.
It does, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, every single astronaut who spends an extended period in microgravity is acting as a volunteer in a grand, high-stakes medical experiment.
How so?
Well, by closely observing exceptionally fit, healthy individuals rapidly deteriorate in a predictable way and then successfully recover, scientists are learning invaluable lessons about ordinary medical conditions down here.
Oh, right. Because the accelerated bone loss in space perfectly mimics osteoporosis on Earth.
Exactly. And the rapid muscle wasting perfectly mimics the atrophy seen in elderly patients or individuals confined to long-term bed rest.
So by studying the exact cellular mechanisms of how astronauts lose bone, and more importantly, how they heal, researchers are developing better targeted therapies for the frailties of aging right here on Earth.
That's amazing research.
It really is. So every time you, the listener, just stand up from your chair right now and walk across the room, you are actively participating in the exact life-sustaining biological process that space agencies are spending billions of dollars to study in orbit.
That's a great way to think about it.
So what does this all mean? When we look at all these sources, the core realization is really a complete reframing of our relationship with this planet. We are conditioned to think of gravity as a burden.
Right. Oh, totally.
It's the thing that makes heavy boxes hard to lift. It's the force that makes our legs ache at the end of a long workday. It's what we have to physically drag ourselves up against every morning when the alarm goes off.
But the reality revealed by space travel is that gravity is actually an invisible life support system.
Yeah.
It is a fundamental matrix that we are biologically plugged into. It dictates the architecture of our skeleton. It manages the precise circulation of our blood. It grounds our sense of physical reality and balance.
It's basically performing essential structural maintenance on your body every single second of your life.
Every second. And if we want to travel to Mars, if we truly want to become an interplanetary species, our biggest hurdle isn't just engineering a more powerful rocket engine.
Right. We have to figure out how to artificially replicate a fundamental force of nature that we have taken completely for granted for our entire evolutionary history.
Which leaves us with a truly fascinating question to ponder.
Oh, what's that?
Well, everything we've discussed today revolves around fully grown adults whose bodies were forged in Earth-specific 1G environment, venturing briefly into space. But what about the future? If our bodies are this intimately tuned to Earth's gravitational pull, what would happen to the first generation of humans born on Mars, where the gravity is only about a third as strong as it is here?
Oh, wow. Or like A child born on the moon, where it's even weaker.
Exactly. If they grew up without that constant, heavy workout from birth, their bodies would develop entirely differently.
Their bones would be significantly less dense, optimized only for a much lighter world.
Their hearts would be weaker, never having needed to pump blood against Earth's heavy pull. So if a child born on Mars decided, as an adult, to visit their ancestral home planet,
Could they even survive the trip down to the surface?
right, would the crushing weight of Earth's gravity simply be too much for a Martian-grown body to endure? They might be effectively trapped on Mars forever by the sheer reality of their own biology.
That is profound. We spend billions building rockets to escape the Earth, only to find out that the Earth is quite literally built into our bones.
It really is.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. As you go about the rest of your day, maybe take just a moment to appreciate that heavy feeling of your feet pressing firmly into the floor. You aren't just walking. You are actively enjoying the constant, life-giving embrace of the planet.
Forget the serene floating and the slow-motion somersaults.
Exactly. Down here, heavy is healthy. Take care of yourselves, and we will catch you on the next one.